Hi everyone. This is the voice behind the noise. And I am Myron. On March 23, Putin announced that when exporting natural gas to unfriendly countries and regions, including all EU member states, only rubles will be accepted for settlement. As soon as Putin made his remarks, the price of natural gas in Europe rose by 34%. Germany immediately accused Russia of breaching the contract and lacking the spirit of the contract. What is Putin trying to do? Why is Europe so angry? Today, let's talk about this topic. We know that since the war, Russia has been sanctioned by the West in all aspects, except energy. In fact, Putin must have considered these sanctions before the war. Given Russia's land size and resources, these sanctions cannot directly kill Russia. For Russia, it's been like this for hundreds of years, and they're used to it. The Russian government is most worried about the ruble. In the financial market, confidence is king. A series of sanctions from the West have made both domestic and foreign capital generally look down on the Russian economy and lack confidence in Russia's future. This has resulted in a sharp depreciation of the ruble in the early days of the war. The ruble fell to as low as 156 to 1 against the dollar. However, with the deepening of the war, the exchange rate of the ruble has magically risen back, reaching around 100 in mid-March. Goldman Sachs Group and JP Morgan have been quietly buying the bonds of Russian companies that have fallen sharply under sanctions in recent days. The capitalists is really honest, and the Russian central bank has raised interest rates to 20% in one go. The two together constitute the main driving force for the recent rise of the ruble against the dollar. However, relying on the government to force interest rate hikes and the mercenaries of capitalists is not safe after all. Then, how can it be safe? Paper money itself has no value. If you want to give paper money value, it must be linked to some valuable item, such as oil, food, and so on. For example, you can exchange for oil with US dollars, and exchange for various industrial products with RMB. The same holds true for the ruble, and energy is apparently one of the few valuables in Russia. Putin's move is to ensure the value of the ruble through the energy in his hand. If you want to buy my energy, you have to pay rubles, but as a customer, the EU wants to pay rubles, you must first have rubles as foreign exchange reserves, then you must first export goods to Russia to earn rubles. In this way, the pattern of EU exports goods to Russia earns rubles, Russia exports energy to Europe recovers rubles will form this small cycle, which will play a significant role in stabilizing the ruble exchange rate. So after Putin announced this decision, the market suddenly gained confidence in the ruble, and the ruble rose to 97 against the dollar. The second purpose of Putin's actions is to beat the EU. Putin knows that the EU does not have many rubles in its hands. Such a move will only make the EU very embarrassed. It is no wonder that the price of natural gas has risen sharply. In the face of Western sanctions, Russia actually has limited means to fight back, especially since there are no means to make the US sad, so Russia can only focus on putting pressure on the EU. 40% of the EU's natural gas and 30% of its oil come from Russia. The role of natural gas is not only heating in winter, but also the key to industrial and agricultural production. The production of industry, especially the manufacturing industry, requires a large amount of cheap energy. Rising energy prices will seriously squeeze the profit margins of the manufacturing industry, which is extremely unfavorable for a large manufacturing country like Germany. This knife is really inserted into the aorta of Germany, and there will be no solution at all for a while. Therefore, the attitude of German officials has also begun to soften recently. Putin's series of measures also have his own difficulties. Normally, Russia should use both bread and sticks, but Russia's economy is not good, and it can't afford to give others much bread, so it can only use sticks. If this stick goes on, the best result is that the EU is forced to do nothing but compromise with Russia under pressure from the United States, at least partially. This is what Russia is most looking forward to. However, given that the EU is deeply penetrated by the United States, it may not end up as Russia wants. Therefore, it is more likely that the EU is planning to develop new energy sources while enduring high prices for traditional energy sources. In addition, if Russia's move is successful, it will actually hit the dollar. Originally, the current global currency system is extremely unfair. There are many countries that want to change the rule, but the United States relies on its military to forcefully suppress them all. For example, the cause of the Iraq War is that Saddam wants to promote the settlement of oil in the euro. If Russia relies on its nuclear weapons as a talisman and succeeds in forcibly breaking through the barrier, it is a signal to tell those countries with large resources that you can do the same. The more countries do this, the more the territory of the dollar will be divided up, forming a situation in which a group of many heroes rises together. Okay, that's all for today, see you in the next video.